Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another market breakdown. It is Sunday, November 30th. Let's begin. So, trades that we took last week, early last week, was GBP USD for a continuation to the downside. Basically, entered this trade right here after the rejection of the EMA, previous structure, pattern, all of that good stuff. And price basically, we didn't wait for the close of the 4 hour candle, and price basically rejected and pushed higher and then ended up hitting stop loss. After that was AUD USD. Another sell underneath the area of interest. We had the reaction from the area of interest, and price sold and then very aggressively turned around, at which point I decided to close right around this point. And then price pushed lower. I considered re-entering, but I held off, and then price basically had a complete turnaround. If you were interested in taking buys, you could have probably done that somewhere around this area, although it was very risky. But yeah, since then we've had a lot of price action and movement and reversal. So let's go ahead and get into the breakdown. So starting with Bitcoin, on the weekly time frame, Bitcoin is still bearish. We're starting to have a weekly pullback. Daily time frame price is still bearish. We have a lower low. This is going to be the lower high underneath the daily EMA, and the 4 hour time frame is now bullish, or rather might still be bearish, but it will shift bullish if it hasn't yet. Yes, we broke above this point. We closed above it, so it is bullish. Went bullish temporarily, then went bearish once more. So it is actually currently bearish, but it is above the 4 hour EMA. So in order to take any type of sells, you'd want price to basically break back underneath this area, pull back, and then sell, similar to the way it did right here. Overall, I do expect price to continue to sell, unless we break above the daily EMA, which would take quite a lot of price action. If it does decide to make it to this area, we might see a rejection, and then we might actually break back above and buy. But until we get that break above, retest to buy, Bitcoin will most likely continue to sell. So here, pull back to sell. SPX weekly time frame is currently bullish. We have created a higher high. Price is pushing higher. Daily time frame, price has sold. It's still bearish, but is pulling back at the moment and will probably shift bullish very, very soon. So we had rejected the daily EMA, not exactly the weekly EMA, which is currently still bullish, but we did shift above the 4 hour, and price is currently on its way up. What we could expect is probably a pullback into the EMA to buy on SPX, which means that NASDAQ and US 30 will very likely do something similar. Weekly time frame created a higher high. NASDAQ weekly time frame has not yet created a higher high, but will probably create a higher high soon. Daily time frame is bullish, so we have weekly time frame bullish. Oh, this is not the right one. So weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bullish, and 4 hour time frame is currently also bullish. So you have three bullish time frames. In order to have our pullback, we may shift bearish temporarily on NASDAQ, but I do not think that it will. It might just have a small pullback and then a continuation, or we might break underneath the EMA, similar to the way price does right here, where we're selling, we actually go bullish temporarily above the EMA, and then we break back below and we continue to sell. So if that does happen, if price does decide to retest this area of interest and break underneath this EMA, what we would want to see is a pullback, a rejection, and then actually a shift back above the EMA for a continuation to the upside. But either way, the idea remains the same, pull back to buy. And that is all. All right, so US 30, same thing, pull back to buy. Gold. Gold is probably going to start making new highs. Weekly time frame is very bullish. Daily time frame also bullish. We have basically had a shift the structure to the upside, pull back, retested previous structure to buy. Excuse me. But yeah, basically push up, pull back to buy. I'm having a sneeze attack. All right, so at this point, I do believe price will probably just continue making higher highs, especially considering the 4-hour time frame, which is currently bullish. I mean, you could consider it bearish if you don't count this or this as an elbow. That is, you can interpret that however you like. But overall, considering the fact that these two time frames, the higher time frames are still bullish, very bullish, and are creating higher highs, we can only expect either a daily pullback to buy or just a 4-hour pullback to buy. Maybe retesting this previous structure right here. Seems to be some kind of a lower time frame area of interest in this area. You have 1, 2, 3 structure points, maybe even 4 if you consider this right here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 structure points right there. Basically just a pullback into this general area to continue to buy. This would not only create a weekly wick, but it would also create a daily wick and a 4-hour pullback. In fact, this 4-hour pullback has already begun with this doji candle. This doji candle has kind of done the same thing in the same area before, so you have to be careful. If price does shift bearish on the 4-hour time frame, we could be like there could be a bigger pullback on the way, because we have kind of a similar structure here. We have a elbow, doji candle at the top, and then shift the structure and sell. So not exactly the same thing, but very, very similar idea there. But regardless, I do think gold will continue pressing higher. Tensions are rising around the world, with the United States landing troops in Venezuela and things along those lines. All right, so DXY, I think DXY has found a top here, rejecting this weekly EMA. Had a very, very strong rejection. Weekly time frame is still currently bearish. Daily time frame is creating a double top here. There is a chance that price uses this as an elbow to create the next higher high. We are still currently above the daily EMA, but we have broken underneath the 4-hour EMA. And in order to consider taking any kind of buys, we want to see price actually create a structure for the bottom, shift above the EMA, retest above to buy. We could do that. There's nothing stopping price from doing that. In fact, if we did do that, it would be similar in terms of retesting the daily EMA, creating 4-hour structure and then buying. However, you have to be aware of the higher time frames, which are the weekly and the daily. The weekly time frame is rejecting here, and the daily time frame is creating that double top in an area of resistance. So to me, I think a safe bet or a safe trade would be price selling underneath the daily EMA, basically breaking underneath this structure, breaking underneath the neckline of the double top, retesting the EMA, and then selling. Then the EMA would basically swoop up and over, and we would be trapped underneath, therefore pushing price lower. All right. Moving on to the good stuff. Let's see what the Forex pairs have for us here. Also, excuse my sniffling. I have the runniest of noses. All right, weekly time frame has basically created a lower low here, or has created a lower low and then a shift of structure. Price shifted above the previous structure and has gone bullish on the weekly time frame. Now, that could signify a reversal. It doesn't always mean that though. We have to see what all the other time frames look like. Weekly time frame has created a shift of structure, has shifted back above the EMA. Overall, let's see what top price is doing. So overall price is bullish on the monthly time frame. Now we have seen reactions from the monthly EMA in the past where price breaks or nears the EMA and then has a rejection from that EMA. Now, one thing to consider is the fact that we did close with like a doji rejection this month. And that doji rejection is basically the shift of structure. What I could probably anticipate is a pullback to retest and then a buy. That could be nice to see. In fact, I think that pullback to retest is currently happening. Now we have this double bottom. So weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is currently still bearish, and 4-hour time frame is now bullish, right? So we have two time frames in sync to buy. So the entire analysis is now shifted for GBP USD. Now we'll have to see what the other USD pairs are doing, but I'm expecting them to all look the same. So the 4-hour time frame is bullish from here to here. We're currently having a 4-hour pullback. Daily time frame is still bearish, but we are retesting this daily EMA. What I think might happen, or what I think will happen, is we're going to sell into this area, which we kind of have already done. We broke above the area of interest, we rejected the EMA, and we sold into the area of interest. At this point, price can either pull back to retest one more time, retest these structures, and then reject to buy, or we might have already had the retest and now we'll just push higher. The main idea is we want to see price successfully break above this EMA, which will confirm that price has decided to press higher. The one thing is that if it does do that, we might end up just buying very, very aggressively, and then we might not get an entry. So there are a few things to consider there. Let's see what these lower time frames are doing. Lower time frame had a push to the downside. We actually had a bit of a shift of structure, not a real shift of structure, because technically price right here and right here is the lower or higher low, higher high. Anything above this point will be the next higher high, excuse me. And anything in between this area is still valid for buys. I think what we've done here, or what we're doing here, is creating somewhat of a inverted head and shoulders. And this might be the bottom of the shoulder. Like we might not sell any further. We might just reject and buy. So what I would do is I would mark this out as a bit of a lower time frame area of interest. And if price manages to close above and retest even with a little bit, any engulfing candles I get above this area, I will be looking to take buys from. So that's kind of like a rather aggressive way to enter this. Obviously, in a perfect world, we would get a push up, a retest of this area of interest, and then a buy. But something tells me that we might just kind of take off from this area without getting much of a pullback. So your two options are pull back into area of interest to buy, into area of interest to buy, or break and retest above lower time frame area of interest to buy. So you have two options for this one. Let's move on. Is this one that I'll be interested in? Potentially. I don't hate this. We'll change that to buys and we'll toss it up here for now. AUD USD. AUD USD on the weekly time frame has shifted bullish as well. We do have this like inverted head and shoulders. That's the one thing that I'm kind of still being a bit open-minded to, is the fact that a lot of these pairs still have bearish market structure. We're just seeing some kind of a resistance be or a support zone that we reached. Higher time frames, yeah, on the monthly time frame, this does look like it's about to have a little bit of a higher push. Really looks like anything can happen in this area. But we'll go with what market structure is telling us. Weekly time frame is currently bullish. Can't ignore that. Weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame, let's change this. So weekly time frame has created a higher high. We rejected the EMA, right? Daily time frame is currently bullish as well. So we had a lower low. We failed to break and retest underneath our area of interest, and we created a bullish market structure there. So we're bullish on the daily time frame, and 4-hour time frame is currently also bullish. So we have 3 bullish time frames in sync. It's going to be a bit difficult for us to catch sells at this point, even if we wanted to. We would need, so if we're going to be looking for sells, right? So if we're anticipating this to be a giant head and shoulders on the weekly time frame, right? Which I kind of think it is. We may just be creating the second shoulder a little bit higher. So if we need this to, if we think that this is going to happen, we need one of two things to happen. We need price to either shift back below this entire area, retest to sell. That would be ideal. That would be the A plus setup, right? Or what we need is a daily shift of structure up at inside of this area. So we sell into the EMA. Let's delete this right here. So let's pretend that price sells into this EMA, creates a higher high, right? At this point, this would become our next elbow at the EMA. And then all of a sudden we see a lower low being created. At this point, the daily time frame will shift bearish and the 4-hour time frame will shift bearish. At this point right here, we'll be able to take sells. As of right now, sells are not available. We have 3 time frames that are bullish. So for us, the only thing that would make sense is a retest of previous structure to buy. And to be honest, I'm not too excited about that. But it is a potential trade opportunity. Yeah, I mean, if that's what we're looking at, then on a bigger scale, it would look like a weekly wick to the downside like this, and then a bigger, say bullish candle that closes like that, which is totally possible as well. In fact, if that happens, then sells will actually completely exit the picture and we'll only be looking for buys, because then we will be trading above a bigger area of interest, which could be this one right here. So you have a daily area of interest, which is something like this. You have 1, 2, 3 structure points here, or perhaps one that is 1, 2, 3 structure points, 4 structure points. I actually like this one a little bit more. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 structure points here. Basically a pullback. Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. Basically a pullback into this area of interest to buy. Just be aware of the fact that you're buying into another daily area of interest, which is this one right here. Okay, so you're kind of sandwiched between 2 areas of interest. I don't hate this trade. Actually, this one makes quite a bit of sense to me, simply because we've seen the daily reactions from this area of interest right here. So what I just drew out earlier, the higher low, higher high, and then shift the structure could totally happen within these 2 areas of interest. So if you're buying, your main take profit should be right here. Okay, that would be your main take profit. Wouldn't be a huge trade, but it should be a pretty solid one regardless. So yeah, pull back to buy. You can basically delete all of this stuff, and this would be a 4-hour pull back to buy. All right. Let's see what else we have. This one would change to buys. Okay, so GBP AUD. This is one that I do not hate. Weekly time frame is still bearish or still bullish, excuse me. Daily time frame is currently bearish, so we've had a shift of structure to the downside. You retested the EMA. I was initially looking for buys here, but now sells look much, much cleaner. So we have the daily time frame is bearish, the 4-hour time frame is bearish. So we have had a 4-hour shift of structure, pull back. We created this head and shoulders pattern right here, shoulder, head, shoulder. You could consider this a retest of the neckline or this a retest of the neckline. Regardless, at this point, I don't think we're going to make it back to the neckline of that head and shoulders pattern. I do think what we might do is, if we do, great, amazing, fantastic, spectacular retest at the neckline to sell. That would be option number one. Option number two would actually be a retest of the EMA, maybe some of these wicks here. So we don't have a daily area of interest anywhere near us at the current moment, I don't think. Let me see. Well, yeah, not really. Well, actually, yeah, there is. Sorry. We don't have to look that far. We have one right here. A small daily area of interest. 1, 2, 3 structure points, right? So a daily pullback into this area of interest, retesting previous structure would be perfect, right? If not a daily pullback, then a 4-hour pullback into the EMA, obviously a bit more risky. Either way, it's going to be a pullback to sell, 4-hour or daily pull back to sell. I do like this one quite a lot. I think market structure looks very nice. Higher time frames, higher time frames all line up. At this point, all we're looking at is a weekly wick to the upside, right? Weekly wick to the upside, and then a bearish candle to the downside, like that. Yeah, let's just continue. Why does that look weird now? Nice, nice. All right, yeah. So pull back to sell GBP AUD. This one has switched from buys to sells. Lots of movement happening last week, so we'll have to be thorough with our analysis. So let's move these into their corresponding areas. CAD pairs, CAD, NZD, NZD, USD, USD. Yeah, that's more or less correct. All right, so Euro USD. Weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is currently bearish. This one, out of all of the USD pairs, looks like it could still continue to sell. Only issue is we're above the EMA, right? So as long as we're above that 4-hour EMA, we will be unable to sell. Weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bearish, and 4-hour time frame is bullish. So actually, yeah, it is. Okay, so yeah, we're bullish from right here to here. At this point, we're not in a bad area to buy. We have 2 time frames in sync to buy. Out of all the USD pairs, if they all do go or continues to go bullish, which I do think that they will, at that point, I think that Euro USD is in the best position out of all of those. All right. Yeah, so Euro USD is kind of in a better position because we are not really far away from our area of interest. We're kind of right inside of it. Um, let's kind of compare these. Well, this one's actually really nice as well. GBP USD, Euro USD. They look kind of similar. Um, yeah, look very similar. Okay, so then the analysis is going to be very similar as well. Obviously, it would be in a perfect world, we would be buying at the point where the daily time frame is already bullish, and then we wait for a daily pullback, and then we buy. In fact, this could be a trade that we take in the future, maybe in a week or two. Um, it probably will be a trade that we take in a week or two. Um, but as of right now, I want to see price at the very minimum close above the EMA. We can kind of anticipate that it will. Um, we can kind of anticipate that it will. I think we're in a similar situation to this right here. As you can see, we sold underneath the EMA. We sold underneath the area of interest. And what happened? We broke above. We weren't above so we were above the EMA there, but we're not here at the moment. But you can see the similar structure to where we have a strong buyback. We have a rejection candle, doji candle, pullback candle, and then we have this would be the pullback candle, this would be the rejection candle. So we have a pullback candle, rejection candle, and then the next candle is basically a very, very aggressive buy. I would not be surprised to see that. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the daily candle closed bullish tomorrow or today or tonight. No, it would be tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. So tomorrow evening, we'll probably do our analysis around 5 p.m. I'll try to if I don't have any other things to do. If not, then we'll do it around New York session, middle of New York session, like 11, 12 in the morning, my time, Eastern time. So if the market does close tomorrow, 5 p.m., bullish, engulfing, not engulfing, I mean, it would engulf these candles, but not the previous one. But if it closes bullish and shifts above this point right here, we can expect the following couple of days to be a pullback into the area of interest. And at that point, we'll have a better entry for price. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to wait for. If the trade runs away from me, it runs away from me. I want a little bit more confirmation, similar to the way that I want more confirmation on these ones. So I'm probably not going to hop into anything, but I do like them. So I'm going to keep all of them on my watch list. NZD USD is not going to be any different. Another USD pair, which is close to shifting bullish on the weekly. Out of all of the USD pairs, I think this one is the only one that is still bearish on the weekly time frame. Daily time frame has shifted bullish. 4-hour time frame has shifted bullish. So we do still have two time frames that are bullish. At this point, I would like to see we need a weekly pullback. We're also in this area where we see a lot of consolidation on the weekly time frame, especially. Like it was very, very messy here. But ultimately, price made its decision to buy. Okay, so what I'm going to be interested in seeing is a pullback into previous structure, into this double bottom right here to then buy. That might be a little bit too much to ask for, but that would be the cleanest trade in my opinion. It would create a weekly wick to the downside and then allow price to accelerate to the upside. Basically, price would shift bearish. That's the only thing that I think that's the only reason I think this might not happen, is because if the 4 hour time frame does shift bearish, it'll be a little bit more difficult for price to push higher, and it'll also make this trade a little bit less valid because you'll only have one time frame in sync. However, you will still be above the 4 hour EMA, and there's a chance that you sell and then create a lower low before then shifting back to bullish and then buying. So that's kind of what I would like to see, is a pullback into previous structure, which is also an area of interest inside of this area. You can kind of expand it a little bit if you'd like to include these two structure points right here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 structure points. Yeah, so we either wait for the pullback, or there's going to be a small pullback just to right here and then just buy from there, which would be similar to what we would be seeing on these other USD pairs. But USD has shifted bullish in my opinion, or not USD, but these USD pairs. USD CAD, on the other hand, will be going bearish as expected. If these ones are bullish, then this one is bearish. Weekly time frame has shifted bearish. Daily time frame has shifted underneath the EMA. Still bullish, but we've created the inverted head and shoulders pattern. We're underneath the neckline at the moment, underneath the EMA. At the current moment, all I can expect to see is a pullback into previous structure, into the EMA to sell. 4 hour time frame has a beautiful lower low. So we have shifted bearish. We were higher high, shift the structure, pull back into the EMA, sell. At this point, all we're waiting for is a smaller pullback. I don't think we're going to pull back into the EMA on the 4 hour time frame. I think it'll be more so on the daily time frame. Maybe a day of pulling back and then a doji to sell. That would be fantastic. If not, then it might just be a wick pullback to sell. Either way, I think this looks fantastic. 2 time frames in sync. This will probably be closer to the top of my list. All this needs is a 4 hour pullback to sell. So we can delete that, go in here and switch it to selling. Let's see, we have 4 hour pullback to, this one needs to be 4 hour pullback to buy. All right, so most of these are just 4 hour pullbacks to buy, and then there's one 4 hour pullback to sell. All right, moving on. EuroCAD. EuroCAD on the weekly time frame is currently bearish. Daily time frame is currently bearish. So we have this head and shoulders pattern that we're currently creating. And 4 hour time frame is also currently bearish. So we have 3 bearish time frames. We're underneath the EMAs. We're underneath the daily EMA, underneath the 4 hour EMA. Seems like we might be starting a 4 hour pullback. So it would be nice to see one of two things happening: either a pullback into this daily EMA to sell, or a pullback or a break and retest underneath this neckline right here. Which option number 2 for me would be much better. You can delete these and say 1 and 2. This would be pull back into daily area of daily EMA to sell, and then option number 2 would be a break and retest under the neckline to sell. Okay, so we have those 2 options there. I don't hate this one. I actually do like the market structure it's creating. Only thing is we have to be aware of the fact that we haven't really broken through this area in quite a while. Price has had very, very many rejections in here, but we have yet to close and sell underneath that area. So we'll have to be patient with this one. Um, yeah, I don't hate this. I don't hate this. I like it a lot. But I don't think I'm going to add it to my list. Or maybe I will temporarily, and then we'll kind of come back to it. We'll come back to it. Weekly time frame here is bearish on NZD CAD. NZD CAD weekly time frame is bearish. Daily time frame is bullish. And 4-hour time frame is bearish. So we have two time frames in sync. I count this right here as a small elbow, and then price shifted back underneath. In a perfect world, we would be selling. So we're kind of rejecting this daily EMA and previous structure. Weekly pullback. I really don't see why price wouldn't sell. We've broken underneath this area of interest. We've retested the weekly area of interest. Daily time frame retested the EMA. 4-hour time frame shifted bearish. We created a double top, retest the neckline of the double top. Okay, so at a certain point, price is going to shift back above the 30-minute EMA. And as soon as we shift back underneath, I think that price is realistically just going to sell. In a perfect world, like I was saying, I think we would be selling underneath the 4-hour EMA. But that might be too much to wait for. So a proper break and retest. So let's call this a double top. If price breaks underneath the EMA, we retest this double top and then sell, I think that we could see a bunch more selling happening, kind of creating a head and shoulders pattern here as well. So yeah, NZD CAD, I would be looking for a break and retest of the lower time frame structures and EMA for sells. Okay. Euro GBP weekly time frame is bullish. Also, we're going to go through and like remove a bunch of these pairs at the end. The ones that I see a trade available in, I'm going to add to the list, and then we'll go through and we'll clear that out later. Weekly time frame here has had a weekly pullback into the area of interest on Euro GBP. Daily time frame is retesting the EMA and starting to reject that EMA. Daily time frame is currently also no. So weekly's bullish, daily's bearish. 4-hour time frame is currently bearish. So that's the one thing that I don't like about this. But at a certain point, I don't think it really matters that much whether the 4-hour time frame is bearish or not, because we're rejecting this EMA clearly, or not the EMA. Yes, well, the daily EMA we're rejecting, and then the 4-hour market structure has created a reversal pattern where we have a double, triple top, head and shoulders, whatever you want to call this, and we've broken above the neckline. So at this point, I think that price will either have a pullback into the neckline and then buy, or we'll just pull back into the area of interest, create one more structure point, maybe create that 4-hour lower low, and then actually have a shift of structure to buy. So what I would wait for is I'd wait for some kind of a pullback, and then I'd wait for that pullback to end before looking for entries. Either way, Euro GBP, we're waiting for a 4-hour pullback to buy. That is my opinion. Now we have two time frames in sync to sell. Only reason I'm not looking to sell is one, the daily EMA, two, the weekly market structure is bullish. And if we're going to be selling, I want to see the daily time frame shift underneath the daily EMA, right? So if we shift it underneath here, at that point, I'd look for a retest of the same area of interest, but only to sell. Okay. So that we're totally flexible with the way that we anticipate what price is going to do. Okay. All right. So moving on, let's delete these two notes here. Now, the entire time, in fact, before I deleted that note, I saw that we marked this down as a counter trend trade. It was a great counter trend trade that we were going to take into sell into this area of interest, which is exactly what happened, exactly how it played out. You might have gotten taken out by this here move. I'm not exactly sure what this was. Price shot up very aggressively and then eventually came back down and sold into our area of interest. Now, at this point, we're just waiting for those buyers to come back into the market. You have to understand that there is only one time frame in sync, but there are other confluences lined up for you to be able to take these buys. Euro AUD. Euro AUD weekly time frame is bullish. However, looks like we're setting up with some bearish market structure right in this internal range. Daily time frame has shifted bearish, even more bearish. It was always bearish, but we had a higher high, and now we're creating a lower low. So we're bullish on the weekly, bearish on the daily 4-hour time frame. Underneath the EMA is also bearish. At this point, we don't really have. What we were looking at was a daily. Yeah, so we have a daily area of interest. We kind of have a weekly area of interest, but the weekly area of interest is very, very broad. You have this structure point right here, and then you kind of combine it with this one and this one. So you have three structure points. There is a weekly area of interest here, kind of overlaps with the daily area of interest. If you see price pulling back into this area, this overlapping zone, amazing, fantastic, spectacular. You're retesting previous structure, you're retesting the EMA. That's kind of what I'll be looking for, is a pullback to sell. Pull back into daily area of interest and EMA to sell. Now, I've basically switched my analysis, like direction of my analysis for every pair so far, like excluding one or two. So, yeah, we'll continue to adapt to what this market is offering. All right, Euro. So we just did this one. Also not a bad trade. I really don't hate any of these. Well, it'll be hard for us to pick which ones to go with. So here, weekly time frame is bearish. A daily time frame is currently bullish. So we have a higher high above this here area of consolidation. And the 4-hour time frame is currently underneath the EMA, and it is currently still bullish. So we have a push up to this point. We never closed above it. Now, at the current area that we're in, I think it's important that we wait for price to properly buy above this EMA, maybe even wait for it to retest the EMA before we buy. This is going to be a trade that I'm not too interested in. I do like the market structure. I do think that there's tons of potential for price to continue pressing higher. Just in general, this market looks like it's going to continue going higher. Monthly time frame, weekly time frame, and daily time frame. I think they're all going to continue just pressing on up, but we are underneath the daily EMA. We did reject the daily EMA. If you want to be as safe as possible, just wait for a daily bullish engulfing candle or something along those lines, maybe a daily doji candle right here, which could signify the end of this daily pullback and the beginning of a potential continuation to the upside. All right, so moving on, first trade we're not really interested in. AUD CAD, probably going to be similar. Weekly time frame is bullish. So weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame. I need to refresh my page. Okay. We're on AUD CAD. So weekly time frame here is bullish. The daily time frame here is bearish. Nope, shifted bullish. So we closed above that point. So now we're bullish on the weekly, bullish on the daily 4-hour time frame. Has retested the EMA. It is currently bearish on the 4-hour time frame, but I do like the way price has reached an area where we're starting to see rejection and possible bullish continuation. Yeah, both on the 4-hour time frame and on the 2-hour time frame. What I would kind of look for now, since we're rejecting both of these time frames, I would look for price to break above the 1-hour and 30-minute time frames, maybe wait for a proper break above, retest, engulfing. At that point, you're probably good to take buys. So just waiting for a lower time frame break and retest above EMA. And this one is not terrible. We do have like a daily rejection here. That is something to consider and note is we do have this like daily candlestick rejection that could lead to another daily bearish candle, which could be the beginning of something a bit bigger. But that is not, guaranteed to happen. Honestly, this isn't a pair that I'm super duper interested in. But it is one that I'm seeing a bit of a pattern. If we take note of what happened right here and we take note of what's happening right here, it's very, very similar, right? So we're trading sideways, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, price just explodes to the upside, right? Now, where are we currently inside of this move? Okay, so if we compare this, we have, kind of bouncing around underneath the EMA. We break above the EMA, we retest it, and we start creating bullish market structure, and then we eventually just shoot up. Okay, so if we just take this and we drag it across, it's not the same, but this area right here, I want you guys to notice this area right here where we sell underneath, and then we pull back, and then we start to create bullish market structure. This is very, very similar. Okay. So I do think that we're kind of inside of this area. Now, a daily doji could give us an opportunity. In general, it looks like there could be a wick out that happens. If price does push higher, we may have an aggressive retest of the daily EMA. So wherever you decide to enter, if you truly want to hold this for a long time, I would look to put my stop loss underneath this wick and underneath the daily EMA. So that would look like just around 0.91250. So what we can do right now together is actually pretend like we're entering a trade, right? So we're going to toss this right here, and then we're going to toss our stop loss at 250. And that would be about a 30 pip stop loss, which really is not that bad. If it was like 40 or 50, I would maybe reconsider entering inside of this type of an area. But, and then what are we talking about here? We're talking about, let's call it right here to here, 220. So we'll go from here to here, about the same. Yeah, 220. So you're getting about a 7.5 risk to reward out of this trade if it plays out the exact same way, right? So that's just honestly not bad. Not bad at all. This would be a longer term trade. This would be held for a week or two. Yeah, about 2 solid weeks of buying is what we're looking at if price does the same exact thing. So we shall see. We shall see. Next, GBP NZD weekly time frame is bullish, having a selling week last week. We wicked out whoever was in sells or in buys. I don't even know. They got wicked out, taken out of their trades by this huge push to the upside. Then price turned around and sold. At this point in price action, we're kind of at a standstill. The weekly time frame is bullish. The daily time frame is bearish. So we're bullish on one, bearish on the other. 4-hour time frame is bearish. I'm not interested in this one, just to save us some time. A lot going on. Maybe in a few days, we'll be able to come back and tell a little bit better what's happening. I think NZD pairs will all be in the same spot. Weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is bearish. This one does look pretty nice. Well, it's good for two things, right? We could either be in a situation like this where we could take some nice buys off the daily EMA, or we could be in a point where we're going to have a pullback into the previous structure to sell. Okay, so there's basically two options, and we're not sure which one to take at the moment. Yeah, we were able to catch a nice little buy here a few months ago, and I'd be tempted to do something similar, but this was a very, very aggressive entry, and it would be a very, very questionable one as well. So here's what I'm thinking, okay? Weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bearish, and the 4-hour time frame is bearish. So we're creating lower lows, whatever. If we manage to start to create bullish market structure on the 4-hour time frame, then I would consider taking buys on this pair, okay? Simply because overall market structure is quite bullish, as you can see. It seems like we've had a pullback, more pullback. Weekly time frame is retesting this weekly overall area, similar to the way we did right here with this pullback. We retested previous structure. Another thing you'll notice is these pullbacks are very similar, right? We have this huge bullish push, then you have a bearish candle, bullish pullback candle, another bearish candle, and then bam, continuation. What? Bullish push, bearish candle, bullish pullback, bearish candle. Next, continuation. So I am curious to see if that will happen once again. If so, you have a huge overall turnout for this type of a move. You have two potential ways to enter. Potential way number one, you wait for the shift of structure, pullback. You'll probably get a few opportunities. As you can see in this one right here, I basically caught the very bottom of the move. This could have very easily been a loss. I was basically, I'd have to go back and look at what my confluences were, but it was mostly the daily EMA and then a bullish engulfing on the lower time frames. I'm pretty sure it was also the 15-minute time frame. Yeah, so we had this consolidation on the 15-minute, basically had this huge bullish engulfing, after which I entered, and that was good enough for me at the time. Now, if we look at where we are right now, Kind of getting the same thing, the same vibe from this pair. If we get like a huge bullish engulfing, that could signify the end of this move. Now you'll notice that the last bullish engulfing was literally one huge candle that was like this big. It wasn't a bunch of small candles. It was one huge candle, and then it just gave like a one or two candlestick pullback, and then just a continuation straight off of that. So there's a few ways of looking at it. That's option number one. Option number two, you enter off of one of these pullbacks after the 4 hour time frame does shift bullish. So you have option number one is the 15-minute push. Option number two, basically lower time frame shift, break and retest. Option number two is the 4 hour time frame, shift the structure, create the head and shoulders or a double bottom, retest of this neckline to buy. That's option number two. And then option number three, which is the safest one, you wait for price to actually break above the EMA, retest the EMA, and then you hop in on the remainder of that move. So either way, any type of way you can. But here I'm just waiting for a 4 hour break and retest above EMA, which is going to be the safest bet. Okay. All right. Let us continue. Also not a bad idea there. AUD USD. Weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame also retesting the EMA at the moment, starting to see a reaction from that daily EMA. Both of these time frames are currently bullish, and the 4 hour time, the 4 hour time frame is currently bearish. So if you want to count this as an elbow, then price has shifted bullish on the 4 hour, but I wouldn't necessarily count that. In fact, I would like to see a lower low and then a shift of structure, and then at that point we might be able to take buys. We are at our area of interest, so not a terrible place to consider to take, continuation to the upside. But nothing is guaranteed, so we have to be patient and wait for the trade to come to us. But yeah, here it would also be basically a 4 hour shift of structure to buy. AUD NZD, not terrible. I think we're in a pretty great place to be able to take continuation trade. And also, if you notice, these market structures look very, very similar, like oddly similar. You have your push to the upside, pullback, price pushes again, but fails to close above this point. We have another pullback, and then we have this small little elbow, lower low. Then we have a daily rejection candle, and that starts our push to the upside. What do we have here? Oh, would you look at that? We have a push to the upside, pullback, price pushes higher, fails to break above this higher high. And then we eventually have our pullback, another push to the upside to kind of even things out, fill in some empty space. We have our push to the downside, our first daily rejection candle, and then after that, price kind of pushes higher. It's just repeating itself once again. Does this mean that it's guaranteed to, have a huge push to the upside like this? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But if for some reason, let's just look at what price is doing here. We're underneath the 2 hour EMA, underneath, then we break above, then we retest above, and then we buy. At this point, maybe this is 2-3 days into the push to the upside. At this point, yeah, 100%. It's almost guaranteed that price is going to continue going higher because you've made a successful shift above all this market structure. You've pulled back into the EMA very nicely. Even you could even do this twice. You could even enter here, you could enter here, and then price just slowly pushes on higher. So it would be nice to see the 4 hour shift of structure, or let's say, or break and retest above. Because remember, the 4 hour time frame might not shift bullish because we're bearish from right here. We would need to go above this point. We might not create a lower low. We might just start pressing higher from here on out. So break and retest above 2 hour EMA. Okay. Now that that's done, where are we? onto the JPY pairs. Yes. So JPY pairs, hopefully these ones go quickly. Still waiting for a pullback. This one has had somewhat of a pullback. I don't hate this for buys. Let's see. 1 hour time frame. I don't know. I do not know. Potentially a break and retest above this triple bottom. Maybe that could be, a decent opportunity. That way it would solidify the rejection of the 4 hour EMA. Weekly time frame, bullish. Daily time frame is bullish, and 4 hour time frame, 4 hour time frame is bearish. Yeah, so I see James said he has it for sells. Not bad. I mean, the sells are possible. We're kind of at the highest point in the market history. Now, the one thing to consider is my nose is so annoying. So weekly time frame bullish, daily time frame bullish. You could maybe take sells. In order to take sells, I would wait for more of the other JPY pairs to kind of follow along. If let's say we'll call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 JPY pairs. If like I'd say 3 or 4 of them all like manage to shift under the 4 hour EMA, then it's completely different story. At the current moment, none of them have shifted successfully. But if we get a proper sell and then retest, then I don't see why you wouldn't be able to take sells, At that point, it's up to you. It's a counter trend trade. You have to understand that until the daily time frame goes bearish. I don't think the weekly time frame is going to go bearish on any of these. Let's see. Weekly's bullish, weekly's bullish, bullish, bullish. Same thing. Once again, nothing changes. So these are all bullish on the weekly time frames. In fact, this one has just created a higher high. I really do think that we are just creating. Yeah, so see why it was important for us to wait for the proper 4 hour confirmation, because we never broke and retested underneath these EMAs. We broke, but we didn't retest. So here we're above the daily, above the daily. Also bullish, created a higher high. At this point, we are bearish here. CHF JPY weekly is bullish, daily is bearish, 4 hour time frame is 4 hour time frame is currently bullish. I don't love CHF JPY. I'll probably stay away from it. It looks like it could be creating it could still sell into the previous structure, or it could just take off from here and continue to buy. I think the buys are more, well, I don't know. Price does do that quite often. This could just be the selling candle, the pullback candle, and then another selling candle could happen this next week. So that is something for us to be aware of. All right. JPY. I feel like there is potential to go both directions, but yeah, it would be best to wait for the daily time frame to go bearish on at least some of these pairs. If not, then you're probably looking to take buys. And if you're taking buys, you're not really buying from a daily area of interest. At the current moment, we're pretty far away from any of that. So waiting for a daily pullback to buy, waiting for a daily pullback to buy. This daily pullback kind of already happened, but why wouldn't we see another one at this point? That would be pretty nice as well. You can kind of move this area of interest around. You have 1, 2, 3 structure points either way. CHF still waiting for that pullback. CAD already had the daily pullback into previous structure. This one seems to already be having a continuation. Same thing here, and these ones are having the daily pullback. So waiting on all the JPY pairs. Let's wrap this up with CHF. I'm about to go drink some tea after this. All right, so weekly time frame here closed bullish. Weekly time frame closed bullish. This weekly time frame is bearish. Weekly time frame is bearish. Here we shifted bullish. Bullish. And bullish. So, oops. No, we won't. Yeah, so these are all bullish on the weekly time frame. Now, my voice isn't, it's more so I'm just like sneezing and my nose is running. I think it's just a cold. I might have a little bit of a raspy voice, but it's not that serious. I'm not like losing my voice yet. It just hurts to swallow sometimes. Hey yo. All right, so daily time frame is pushed up. We're having a pullback into the 4-hour EMA. Yeah, CHF pairs looks like they're gonna have at least another week of buying. At least some of them do. We're above the daily EMA. Daily time frame went bullish. Daily time frame went bullish above the EMA. Same thing here. NZD, same thing here. Daily time frame went bullish. And here we're still bearish on the daily time frame. So CHF is kind of all over the place. Let's go ahead and just check out. So here, weekly time frame bullish, daily time frame is still bearish, and 4-hour time frame is currently bearish. So your two time frames that are still bearish, 4-hour time frame has a lower low right here. We're basically waiting for price to either break above here to give us our second time frame in sync, and then maybe pull back into the double bottom to buy. Or we're waiting for the daily time frame to shift bullish in order for us to take buys above the, whatever this structure is here. Not a huge fan of USD CHF. I think we're kind of moving sideways at this point, and it's a bit difficult to trade this since it keeps turning around. Like it keeps moving one way and then stopping and then moving the other way. So just going to stay away from this one for now. NZD CHF weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bullish, 4-hour time frame is currently bullish. I want to see a daily pullback. If we could see a daily pullback into this area of interest here to previous structure, which is the double bottom, to create this second shoulder, that would be fantastic. As of right now, we're at the higher high on the daily, so we're just waiting for a daily pullback. Here, same thing. I'm assuming weekly time frame bullish, daily time frame bullish, and 4-hour time frame is also at a higher high. With this one, it's a little bit closer. Overall, your daily area of interest is right here. You have 1, 2, 3 structure points. 4 if you consider this 1, 2, 3, 4. Retest of the EMA. Yeah, for this one, you could potentially see price rejecting this area here to have a continuation to the upside, creating a double bottom right here. That's not a bad potential trade. I'd want to see more price action though. It's too soon to tell if price is actually going to, follow this overall market structure, but it does seem to respect the 4-hour EMA quite well. So it might do that. It might do that again. All right, so on to the last three CHF pairs, GBP CHF. So yeah, these are all going to be switching to buys, at least short term. Weekly time frame is currently still bearish. Daily time frame is bullish, and 4-hour time frame is bullish. So here you have two bullish time frames to buy. At this point, you might see price retest these structures right here to continue to buy. I don't think we're going to make it back to the daily area of interest. Well, actually, daily area of interest has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 or 6 structures. So it's not bad. If we could make it back to retest the daily previous structure, that would be nice to see. So daily pull back to buy. Daily pullback to buy would not be a bad idea. Then we have AUD CHF, weekly time frame is still bearish, daily time frame is bullish, and 4-hour time frame is also bullish. At this point, I would basically wait for price to pull back into the area of interest, then have a shift of structure to buy. So pull back into daily area of interest to buy. CHF pairs, I want to wait a little bit longer. CHF pairs, I'm probably going to wait just a little bit longer for most of them. So here, weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bullish, and 4-hour time frame is currently bullish. This one is probably one of the cleaner CHF pairs. You have your double bottom right here. You have your neckline right here. This also happens to be somewhat of a weekly area of interest. You have 1, 2, 3 structure points right there. And there's also a daily area of interest within itself. So a nice pullback into the EMA to buy. There's also the 4-hour EMA right inside the same area. So just a 4-hour pullback to buy. Out of all the CHF pairs, I think I would pick Euro CHF. GBP. I would say CAD CHF, Euro CHF, or GBP CHF. So if you have any of those, then you're probably in a good place in your analysis. JPY pairs, not really going to be interested in them for now, for the sake of not having every Forex pair as one we are interested in. AUD, so let's go ahead and start sorting through some of these. So GBP AUD and Euro AUD are going to be very similar. You just have to pick which one we prefer. I'm going to go with, oh, dude, this is going to be a difficult decision. They're both the same, right? So they're both very similar in the respect that GBP. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with GBP AUD just because market structure is cleaner. We're clearly moving downwards versus here. We're kind of moving sideways. So Yeah, I'm gonna go with GBP AUD. Euro AUD is out of here, although both of them are pretty good. Onto the USD pairs. Kind of gonna be looking for similar things. This one's a bit difficult for me because I still like the fact that we're kind of still moving downwards here. Almost looks like It almost looks like this to me. Okay, so there's a chance that we could still sell here. And this is why I think so. We sold here, right? We sold to the downside, and then we pulled back into the EMA, and then we rejected the EMA. But before breaking the lower low, we had another pullback, and then we sold, right? What are we doing here? Almost the same exact thing. Okay, so on this one, I'm kind of 50-50. Like I could see sells happening, but I could also see buys happening. The only reason we're really interested in the buys is because overall, yeah, I really don't hate that for sells either. Um, this just became a little bit more difficult. Either way, what I would suggest doing is waiting for price to break and retest underneath this EMA. So this one, I'm going to leave blank. This one could be buys or sells because I can see both happening, right? I could see buys or sells happening here. And we might have to switch our analysis tomorrow, depending on what price does. AUD, kind of in the same place. This one's moving sideways, very, very much so. 2P AUD, still bearish market structure underneath the EMA overall. So what I think now that I take a deeper look at this, we're kind of at a turning point. Like if we don't see price break above this EMA successfully, then we're probably just going to see sellers take back over these markets. And if we do, then we're just probably going to see buyers take over for the foreseeable future. And by that, I mean probably for the rest of the year, for the next 3-4 weeks. Okay, so USD pairs, I'm probably gonna. Mm, 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 mm. I've successfully confused myself. Not confused, but now I have kind of different opinions on my own thoughts of these markets. Um, but I think that I'm just going to stick to Euro USD for now because it gives me an opportunity for both buys and sells that are both equally valid. I think the other ones do the same thing. But in terms of the 4-hour EMA, this one's probably the cleanest, has a very, very clean area of interest. When we're above, we're clearly buying. And when we're below, we're clearly selling. So I'm going to get rid of these other USD pairs just for the sake of not having a huge watch list. And then we might add some of these back either tomorrow or Tuesday or whenever they give us a clearer perspective of what the markets are trying to do. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but I'm sure many of you guys are kind of in the same place where you're not sure if we're buying or if we're selling. Because we've seen a huge pullback or a huge turnaround in price action. And it can go either way at this point. Could the dramatic change only be temporarily due to the holiday and then go back to how it was? I highly doubt it. Holidays, they don't really affect the direction of the markets. They just affect the volume inside of the markets. And they wouldn't necessarily pump a bunch of buyers into, what's happening. That's more so for news events. Like if there was a huge news event, then yeah, that could be it. That could just be a huge liquidity sweep for a potential further sell. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure um, that Thanksgiving would do that to the markets. Yeah. All right. So we're going to use USD, Euro USD why is this in my way? Anyways, USD CAD is next. Um, kind of in the same position here. 4 hour, very aggressive. But we've seen it before, kind of seen similar market structure, very aggressive, and the next thing you know, we're back above. So yeah, for this one, kind of in the same position. We're not just gonna stick to one analysis. We're gonna allow the markets to actually show us what they're going to do, without forcing anything to happen, right? So I can see this being a similar move to what we've seen in these two other areas where we're underneath the EMA, we sell very aggressively, and then we're back above. We're underneath, we sell aggressively. Next thing you know, we're back above. We're kind of in the same spot. Now, if we get a pullback and we see, engulfing candles and we're going to continue to sell, fantastic. We're going to try to catch some sells and maybe consider moving stop loss to break even very, very early in case there is a turnaround in price, right? Just to protect ourselves and our capital. But if we do sell, we might sell very, very quickly and aggressively. But overall, I want to see a pullback to sell or the break above. So we're going to keep USD CAD on our list for sells temporarily, but we're going to allow price to show us if we're actually going to sell or if we might be buying above that EMA. EuroCAD, NZD CAD, 4 hour. Okay, so out of these two, I'm going to go with NZD CAD. I think it looks much cleaner in my opinion. We broke underneath our area of interest. We've retested previous structure. And from here, we are just waiting for price to show us what it wants to do. Euro GBP. Are there any GBP pairs? Any other GBP pairs? NZD, AUD CAD, NZD CAD, AUD CAD. Okay, so we have opposing opinions on these two pairs here. They're not both going to do the same thing. One of them to me looks cleaner for buys and the other one looks cleaner for sells. NZD, AUD, both above the daily EMA, above the 4 hour EMA, and weekly time frame is bullish on one and bearish on the other. Okay. We'll come back to those. Euro GBP looking for buys. This one I will keep. I do like the position it's in and the market structure it's creating. This will probably be one of my top pairs. Euro NZD, weekly time frame, bullish daily time frame, bearish 4 hour time frame is waiting on that shift of structure. I'll keep this one in the list as well. And this one's also in a similar position. They're kind of the same, except one of them has the daily time frame as bearish and the other one has it as bullish. 4 hour time frames are basically doing the same thing as well. So realistically, I think I'm going to go with Euro NZD, AUD NZD. I think spreads are much worse on AUD NZD over Euro NZD. So we'll go with Euro NZD for this one. simply because we kind of have a better idea of what market has done, of what the market has done in the past for this pair when it nears the daily EMA. Uh, Euro CHF, Euro CHF weekly time frame for a pullback into the weekly EMA, into the daily or weekly area of interest, daily EMA, and 4-hour EMA. Obviously, at this point, price could easily break underneath the EMA, retest, and sell. This is why we have to be careful and patient to avoid getting caught in that type of a move. However, if price does give us a proper rejection, I do not see why we couldn't catch a potential move to the upside. So, and if not, then we might just be rejecting this area here, creating somewhat of a double top, very, very ugly double top on the daily time frame. And if for some reason we find price underneath this daily EMA, then I'm 100% going to be looking for sells again. But this is just what price has presented to us. So this is what I'm going to be looking at. The buys probably won't be that big either. They'll probably be into this daily structure right here. Probably not much further than that. So we'll see what happens with Euro CHF, AUD CAD, NZD CAD. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we'll keep all of them for now, and then tomorrow we'll come back and kind of see what's changed, what's set up, and what hasn't. Let's go ahead and order these by what we're expecting to see. NZD CAD we were expecting for sells. In a perfect world, we would be waiting for price to break and retest underneath the EMA. For some reason, I don't think that that's going to happen. Not that it's not going to happen. I think that it will happen. I just think that bullish. This is a very bullish push compared to those other ones. It's just going to take a while for the 4-hour time frame to go underneath the EMA. So here, if you're going to be safe, you just wait for price to shift underneath, I'd say, this area of interest on the lower time frames, and then retest the EMA and then sell. So it would be a break and retest underneath lower time frame, yeah, and EMA to sell. And the area of interest. Okay, so that's going to be number one. Number two is going to be the break and retest on the lower time frames to buy. So those are going to be your two opposing trade opportunities right there, both AUD CAD and NZD CAD. Euro CHF is going to be a 4-hour pullback to buy, 4-hour break and retest, 4-hour pullback to buy. So these two would go next to each other. 4-hour pullback to sell. This goes up here as well. And then this one can go either way. And then that is a 4-hour pullback. GBP, AUD. So this is going to be the list. Let's go over it really quickly. NZD CAD. Basically waiting for price to show us that it's going to sell, pull back, and then sell more. AUD CAD cannot trade the same way, or it's going to trade the same way as NZD CAD. So don't get stuck. If price sells, don't go, oh, I have a better entry for buys. Let me go ahead and enter buys. No. At that case, you're probably going to want to switch over to NZD CAD and take sells instead. Same thing with if we find NZD CAD buying like this, then you don't want to be trying to sell it. At that point, you can switch over to AUD CAD and maybe take buys on that one. Euro USD is giving us opportunities for both buys and sells. Most of the other USD pairs are doing the same thing. So these ones are kind of 50-50 at the moment. But I do like opportunities in both directions. GBP AUD waiting for a pullback into the EMA and previous structures to sell. Euro CHF, waiting for that pullback into the area of interest to buy, pull back into the previous structures and area of interest to buy, and then the shift the structure on the 4-hour time frame to buy. But that's basically everything for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.